Hello. This story is called Coyote at the Shaman's House, and it's set in Tucson, Arizona. So I thought this background might be appropriate to suggest the lush desert that is the surroundings for Tucson. It's desert, there's no topsoil, but there are many plants and much flora and fauna. In fact, I thought that may be why famous people like to move there, because they can disappear. All you have to do in the desert is walk a few feet in any direction and you're not there anymore. You can't be seen. The foliage is so thick. When establishing a rapport with animals, I would always praise them, both silently and aloud. Praise prepared the way. But was I the only one who could sing a song of praise? Perhaps all of nature was singing in this way, just waiting to tell me things. When I was in the Southwest for several months convalescing from a medical adventure, the shaman invited me to spend some time at Aranaka, his home in Arizona. It was a big place, one story, built in the territorial style with many rooms and a long veranda along the south side. Located on 6.5 desert acres, it was distinguished from its arid surroundings by stands of pine and eucalyptus, and marked from afar by the stately gestures of its Italian cypresses along the driveway. Stone pillars delineated the entrance to the long gravel approach leading up to the house from the main road. It was lined with low river rock walls, leading to a set of stone-mounted iron gates. Beyond these gates, the driveway made a leisurely circuit of the adobe-walled home, past stands of eucalyptus and hedges of oleanders, roses, and bougainvillea. Adjacent to the house and further delineating it from its desert setting were more gardens and enclosures. Just inside the iron gates were the citrus and palm terrace gardens southeast of the house, where I had met the owl and heard his voice. There were patios such as the pine terrace to the east and the jasmine-bedecked front entryway to the north. There were the lion's head garden along the veranda and the walled garden to the north. In such an environment, in each garden was the musical sound of a fountain. There were pool decks in the south offering generous borders for a 50-foot heated swimming pool. After dark, the residence could be lit sumptuously so that it resembled a spaceship just docking there overnight in the Catalina foothills. One spring morning, while I was staying at Aranaka, I walked outdoors onto the garage apron where the owl had let go of the grasshopper. I gazed along the driveway and down into the desert, into the clear, beautiful morning, with early sun slanting in. Aranaka was located in a desert landscape, but a lush one. Its rocky, sandy surface broken by creosote bushes, brittlebrush, cholla, palo verde trees, and cacti, including beryl, prickly pear, and the towering saguaro. At this time of year, there would occasionally be a lone hot air balloon drifting its colorful way across the foothills through the cool morning air. All of a sudden, it was as though a small section of bushes and rock coalesced and started to move. It had a bushy tail and 4 legs, 2 pointed ears, and a sharp nose. It was Coyote again. Was he starting to show up everywhere? Coyote trotted across my field of vision, paying me no attention at all. He moved left to right, jumped over the low stone border of the driveway, then crossed it just within the iron gates. Jumping the border on the other side of the drive, he disappeared beyond the big wall at the foot of the citrus garden. The owl had flown to me out of this garden. Was something else magical about to happen? Coyote's movements were swift and sure, like a slender, graceful dog. And then, before disappearing, it slowed, moving more like a cat. Perhaps it had stopped there, just out of sight. Sure enough, I saw some dust coming from out from behind the big wall. Coyote was scraping and scratching, kicking up dust. It reminded me of the behavior of white-tailed deer in Texas. Deer used scrapes. It was part of their mating dance. The doe would make a scrape and leave her scent and walk off. The buck would come along to the scrape and find the scent, and for him, it was like the Belt Parkway around Southwest Brooklyn. I mean, he would know exactly where he was headed, complete with big signs and traffic arrows pointing the way. So this was a female coyote doing the same thing. Every so often as she scraped, I could see a flick of her bushy tail and a sandy buff color, like the piece of desert she resembled. A little while later, she came out, calmly retracing her steps, trotting nimbly along, paying me no mind. I watched her to see what would happen. After recrossing the driveway, she went back just the way she had come, moving behind a long clump of brush where the desert foliage was not too dense. There was one hole through the branches where I might be able to see her clearly before she disappeared. Here she came, approaching the hole. Just as she reached it, she stopped, right in the middle of it, looking straight at me. She said, "Good morning, brother. I knew you were there all the time. I let you see me." And before I could say anything, she trotted off and became a part of the desert again. The coyote knew. All at once, I understood that she was to be a symbol for me. Something in my own nature that knew me ahead of time. Coyote had shown up for me in Texas, but the meaning was obscure. This time, the meaning became clearer. She, like the shaman and my animal friends, was pointing to the mystery of cognitive life, the underlying oneness of it. She was leaving a trail for me to follow wherever I went. Or maybe now the trail was following me. Coyote had been singing a song of praise to me all along. At the shaman's house, I finally understood from her that if it ever seemed as though nothing significant was showing up, it's because I wasn't paying attention. I had been praising creatures I met in order to establish a rapport with them. But had I been deaf to many of the paeans nature was singing to me? Thanks for listening.